Sunday, July 12th, Congressman Stephen Lynch is our guest this morning. Let's go on the record. He's working with his colleagues in Congress to provide more relief to the millions of Americans impacted by the coronavirus pandemic. 3 of his amendments included in a massive transportation bill. How does it impact residents of the Commonwealth? It's time to go on the record.
From WCVB Channel 5, the inside word from Washington to Beacon Hill. Today's newsmakers are going on the record.
Welcome to OTR. I'm Ed Harding, along with News Center 5's political reporter Janet Wu, joining you this morning. And we do continue to respect social distancing protocols here in the studio, as you can see. Congressman Stephen Lynch is in studio with us, and he is appropriately distanced away. He's across the room. He represents the state's 8th congressional district. As a Democrat, he served on Capitol Hill for almost 2 decades. Congressman, it's really great to have you with us this morning. And you are well. You look wonderful. You are well. Family's well?
Everybody's well.
Excellent.
I hope the same for both you and Janet as well.
Thank you.
And our viewers.
Thank you again, and happy Sunday. So let's get right to it. Most of your constituents are still in a deep financial bind because of this pandemic. The House sent another relief bill to the Senate, which is redrafting a completely different version. Federal unemployment is due to run out this month. How confident are you that money will be approved and the Senate can really push something onto the president's desk?
Well, it's been a negotiation. We passed the HEROES Act weeks ago. That provides additional support for individuals. We extend the unemployment benefits. But most importantly, there is money there for cities and towns and states for lost revenue. And it would buy us time to get through this pandemic and to a better place when tax revenues resume. That's been sitting on Mitch McConnell's desk now for several weeks. They do seem to now believe that it's necessary. Remember, when we first negotiated with the president, he said the country is going to be open again by Easter. We are long past that date. We are still struggling with this. Some states are worse than they ever were. So I think even to Mitch McConnell, it has become painfully obvious that we need support for essential workers, so we're trying to we want teachers to show up and be paid beginning in September. We want fire and police. We want our nurses, and we want essential workers across this country to be paid and to stay on the job.
But as you know, the president has balked, at least recently, about the idea of giving more money to cities and towns specifically, but a lot of other things that were in the House bill. Are you confident that the Senate Republicans can convince the president that this stuff is needed?
Well, it's been a challenge, but I think now, ironically, because of what we're seeing down south, all these southern states, Florida, Texas, elsewhere, that are in the grips of this, I think those Senate Republicans that represent those states that were once skeptical, I think now they're coming on board. They're seeing what the reality is in their own state. So I think that will tip the balance because they got a good understanding now of what the consequences are to not providing PPE and the financial support to their own states. So I think the pressure is there, and I think we will see results. I'm not sure they'll agree with everything that was in the House bill, but I do believe that the most essential parts of that will be supported by the Senate, yes.
Congressman, let's talk about race. It's a major defining issue in today's pandemic, political and economic debate, so it's very much in the forefront of what we're thinking about. Most businesses that got assistance were white-owned businesses, families most severely impacted from the black and brown communities as well. So what leadership role have you taken to address any or all of this?
Sure. We just passed the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act. We've also, with the help of Maxine Waters, who's the chair of the Financial Services Committee that I sit on, have worked to make sure that the support is there, the extra $600 on top of the unemployment benefits. We've put money in for the stimulus. We included gig workers that are not traditionally participating in the traditional unemployment program. We made sure that we reached each and every American that was affected by this slowdown in the economy. So we were very, very careful to make sure that communities of color were included in those benefit programs.
But most of the businesses that got the monies were white-owned, and they weren't.
Well, look, it's everyone is eligible.
Yeah.
Everyone is eligible. We couldn't go out and create minority businesses where they did not exist. All we could do is push money into those businesses, and that's what we did. Some criticized that we were too fast, that we didn't put enough safeguards in, but our interest was getting money out to as many people as possible. One of the other things that we did do was the threshold for some of the Fed programs. A business had to take $1 million out, minimum loan. So with our help, with the work of, again, Maxine Waters, myself, and others, we made them bring that minimum loan amount down so that a small business, a salon or a restaurant, a person of color in a tougher urban situation would be able to access some of that federal funding. So we have tried to refine this in a way that made sure we had equality and fairness for all. We've made those adjustments, and we have seen some uptick and some increased participation, but clearly we need to do more.
One amendment that you've filed in the $1.5 trillion transportation bill that's now before the Senate would mandate uniform airline regulations as passengers start to fly again. You've been on a plane on and off to go to D.C., and you've noticed, as you told me earlier, that there are more people now on these planes. Give us some specifics of what kind of uniform guidelines that you're looking for.
Sure. Well, I fly quite a bit. I've been back and forth to D.C. Quite a bit over the last few weeks. And it's been a real mixed bag in terms of which airline you fly and what the precautions are. I've been on flights where the state police have actually come on board and pulled off passengers who refuse to wear masks. Then I've gone on other flights where everybody is there's 30 people on the flight, which isn't bad, but they're all sitting in the first 5 rows. And so everybody's packed into together. Other airlines, intentionally exercise social distancing. So if there are 20 people, they make sure there's 2 or 3 rows. So there's no harmony in terms of what they're doing. Some of the airlines now, because they're struggling, are packing those planes. My own daughter, went to come home on a flight, and it was just jam packed, and she felt that it was unsafe, and so she's going to wait a little while. But so you've got a real mixed bag, and we've got to find out what the best lessons learned, the best practices are, and that's what my bill was all about, which was adopted in the transportation bill, is coming up with the best measures to keep the flying public safe, as well as the flight attendants and pilots that are on these flights continuously back and forth. So we're looking for the best practices, and then we want the industry to be involved in that negotiation as well.
Let's move to the president and his taxes. The president won a victory of sorts this week when the U.S. Supreme Court said that he didn't have immunity from subpoenas yet. It doesn't look like voters will see anything before Election Day. I think that's fair to say. So the question for you, sir, this morning, how critical is this for Democrats and for Joe Biden this fall, as the presidential election is now just months away?
Well, look, the decision by the Supreme Court was really about democracy with a small d. They ruled, contrary to what the president was saying. The president was saying, and the Attorney General William Barr was saying, that the president cannot be prosecuted for criminal activity while he is in office as president. And Justice Roberts, 7 justices of the 9, voted that the president's position was wrong and that no one, including the president, is above the law. That's the big takeaway from that court decision. And that's not just an issue for President Trump. This is an issue for America and for our democracy that will, finally we have a decision of the Supreme Court that has ruled on that issue specifically, and that will affect every president who takes office in this country in the future. And I think that's really the best that came out of that decision. The timing, it doesn't work for this election. And nor do I think that should be our primary concern. This was such a watershed moment where a president was actually saying that they were above the law. Think about that. And what that would have meant if the Supreme Court had supported the president's position.
So are you saying, in other words, that you believe the decision alone is enough to help the Democrats this fall, even though you won't see any of the financial records before Election Day?
We're going to continue to dig. And remember, the court did give the Manhattan District Attorney the ability to get the records and to continue with their prosecution. So that is a victory. The president's people aren't very happy about that, I can tell you that. So we'll see where they go with that information. I'm sure the president's attorneys will try to delay that process as well for the Manhattan prosecutor. But it's unsure how quickly the court, going back to the lower court, how quickly that will be taken up and that those issues will be resolved.